Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor YouTube Live powered by Riverwind Casino. My name is Brandon Drum, Parker Thune, Spencer Forsythe on the board. Fall camp, week 2. Oklahoma obviously getting prepared for Illinois State. Week 1, Michigan. Week 2, Temple, then Auburn. Going to be a busy first month of August, end of August / September. And then obviously Parker, recruiting. Jake Krell, one of the top defensive end edge rushers in the nation, committed to Oklahoma via the Pat McAfee show yesterday on ESPN, which was a cool deal to watch there. We will talk about that. We will talk about the Davion Gross situation, some of the stuff that went down there. Now, obviously, we can't dive into the full throes of that, but like we do on OU Insider VIP National Signing Day, we'll be able to answer more questions regarding that situation once the ink's dry with this class, essentially, because you never really want to ruin it if something was to come back around. So we got a lot to talk about, injuries, obviously. But before we do all that, let's thank our sponsors.
And that begins with Riverwind Casino, as it always does for us on the Under the Visor podcast and OU Insider Live. Riverwind Casino is our presenting sponsor and OKC's premier gaming destination, has been for almost 20 years now. Nearly 3,000 electronic games, table games, bars, and dining options, plus the best live music in the metro. It's no surprise that Riverwind is always a good time. Also, thanks to Jani-King for their partnership with us at OU Insider. Jani-King is the greatest team to ever clean and a proud partner of OU Athletics, delivering spotless results from stadiums to any size business across the country. Check out which of their solutions is best for you or your business by going to janiking.com. That's JANIKING.com.
All right. I guess go ahead and let's get the first super chat in, or the first few. Obviously, we want to thank everybody for those super chats. If you want to ask questions, the chat goes so fast, we can't read everything. So the super chats pop up to the top. Doesn't matter if you give 99 cents, $1, whatever. If you really are intentional and you want us to answer your questions, all you have to do is do that, and it'll pop it to the top, and it stays at the top until we answer it. Go ahead, Parker.
Did you want me to read the super chat?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Breeze says, with wide receiver recruiting where it's at, why are we too proud to go after someone like an Xavier Okufulueze? Also, we play in the long game for Ford and Lafayette. How many edges do we take in 2026? Well, I'll answer the second question first. Jake Krell gives you 3 commits at defensive end. So you're good. Anything beyond that is gravy. You have Matthew Nelson, you have Daniel Norman, you have Jake Krell. You going to take Kevin Ford or DeAnthony Lafayette if they want to come on with it? Absolutely you will. But you don't feel like there's a whole lot hinging on whether or not those guys ultimately do decide to flip, because Oklahoma has a solid defensive end class as is. So think you feel great about the group with Krell rounding it out. You would feel amazing about the group if you managed to sway DeAnthony Lafayette or Kevin Ford. I don't think there's any world in which you sway them both. But that would be gravy at the position for Oklahoma, no question about it. As far as with wide receiver recruiting being where it's at, we discussed this a couple weeks ago with Xavier Okufulueze, but with the new philosophy at Oklahoma, Jim Nagy's assertion that, hey, we want to build this thing around in-state talent, but we also got to find in-state guys that we believe are good enough to play football at the University of Oklahoma. We can't be offering them scholarships just because they're in-state guys. Xavier Okufulueze has to emerge as not only the convenient option, but the best option for Oklahoma. And I don't think that's going to happen until we get the chance to see him on the field this August, September. Let's see what the first 4 games look like on tape, and then maybe something materializes. But right now, obviously, there are several other wideouts that Oklahoma is keeping tabs on. Braden Allen, the Tulane commit, 3-star out of Lafayette, Louisiana. He's a guy that's going to OV with Oklahoma. The details on that OV are dropping tomorrow morning for subscribers over at OUinsider.com, but the Sooners look pretty well positioned for a flip there. And so let's say you flip Braden Allen. two wide receivers will suffice in this class, I think, Brandon, because you're only graduating two at the end of this year. Deion Burks and Keontae Lewis. Those are the only two that are aging out. So you lose two, you only have to replace two. Um, as far as where things stand numbers wise, when you factor in the transfer portal, obviously you're going to lose a couple. You'd expect in the transfer portal this offseason because that's just what happens, especially in a position group like the wide receiver room where everybody wants targets, everybody wants playing time. There's just not enough of it to go around. But I think the stance you take if you're Oklahoma, you plan for what you know you're going to lose, and if you lose anything beyond that, you compensate for those losses via the portal. And if we learn anything from this past cycle, Brandon, and if we've learned anything from Emmett Jones' tenure at Oklahoma in general, the Sooners are pretty dang good at evaluating portal wide receivers.
They are. They are. Yeah, I just think you have to wide receivers are a position that you don't have to get the most ballyhooed guy to be very really successful, right? As an offense. I think that's the one position. Now it's great to have that elite guy, but if you go through just the history of the University of Oklahoma, Joaquin Iglesias wasn't the most ballyhooed guy. Like he was a late for you youngsters, he was a very late offer. I believe he was offered right before it was in February when they used to the February National Signing Days used to be big. It was right before February National Signing Day that he was offered and committed to Oklahoma. Um, Trying to think about all the other players over the years that just weren't like Jalen Saunders came from Fresno State, wasn't a hugely ballyhooed guy, but was really, really good at Oklahoma. Um, who was the JUCO? Who am I thinking of from East Mississippi that ended up being LeColton Bester, right? Ended up being pretty successful at Oklahoma. Um, who all has been like? I'm just trying to go down the names and like I'm like patchworking through several years. But the reality is that the Davion Gross situation sucked, and we'll get into that. But you don't have to go after the most ballyhooed guy to be really, really good on offense. If your quarterback can get you the ball and those guys can run routes and can make plays, because a lot of these guys, most wide receivers are only as good as their quarterback is. Actually, not most. All wide receivers are only really as good as their quarterback is. You can go back and look at oh my gosh, LSU wide receiver that was like hugely popular from the Giants for years, Beckham Jr., right? Later on in his career when he didn't have quarterbacks, Parker, how did his career end? He's a good player, was always a really good wide receiver, but good wide receivers tend to not be very good when you don't touch the ball. I would say Adams, right? As he went to the Raiders and then obviously followed around an aging Aaron Rodgers. He wasn't as good, right? I'm just trying to make a point. Like you're only as good as your quarterback. Oklahoma's good quarterbacks because guess what? Your wide receivers are probably going to be pretty good. That's just how it works. Is there another? I don't have it pulled up right now. Is there another super chat we got? I think you're muted, buddy. You're muted, Parker.
I did mute myself,
Yep.
didn't I? That was
Yes, you
stupid on
did.
my part. Host Home Alone 91 said fan bases are jealous that our QB reads numbers like Rain Man to build the NIL budget. Their QB can barely read dime coverage on the field or dating pool. Hashtag just a mateer of time. Hashtag SEC ready. Hashtag levels to this. So not really a question there, but there you go. We also got a $1 contribution from West Coast Sooner. No question attached, just a dollar. Thank you for the dollar. Jacob Matthews tosses $5 and asks, watch Gabe and Teddy's show today. What's the likelihood of a Fasusi, Wee Everett, Foje, Simmons lineup? Brandon, look, and I've been here for a while. I love Michael Fasusi and Ryan Foje as much as the next guy, and I think those are going to be cornerstones of the offensive line at Oklahoma no later than 2026. But I struggle to believe that both of them, I struggle to believe that one of them, let alone both, is a long-term starter in 2025 for Oklahoma. That's asking a lot. And I know buzz on them has been strong, but Oklahoma has plenty of experienced offensive linemen that have been in the trenches in the SEC. And so I think it's a lot to put on those two expectations wise to believe that they're going to be in the starting lineup at some point in 2025. If it happens, great, but I don't know that I'm holding out for that.
Yeah, the Foje Fasusi. I will say that somebody the other day told me that there was a possibility in a world that Foje is a starter by the end of the year. Like they believed it too.
I would believe it with Foje before I would believe it with
Why?
Fasusi.
Fact that I agree 100% with. It's just going to be so hard. Like, and people want to sit there and they may scoff at this, but the reality is that Sexton, Simmons, Taylor, Howland, uh, what is it? Isaiah Autry Dent, that's five, and then Luke Beklinko, like there's six. Like, am I missing somebody outside of Fasusi? I'm not, am I?
I don't think so. There's a lot to keep track of in
Yeah,
that room, but yeah, I think you hit them all.
yeah. Point is that I think over Beklinko, yes, for sure. I don't know that he and look, you're probably over Isaiah Autry Dent right now. Um, but there's a world that I think those two are the future. Honestly, like I think those two have. You talk about athleticism, Isaiah Autry Dent, and if you had him, if a Susi in the future as your offensive tackles, ooh, that's a salty, very very athletic tackles that you would have there. But yeah, I just think it's going to be hard to beat all those guys out. It is. Whereas in the interior, and it's nothing again because I think Keith Ozai is a really good player. I do. Obviously, Fabechi Wee was a good player, but what we heard Bill Beatenbow say about Eddie Pierre Louis the other day and just how he has to be under control, how he has to do things correctly. It's great to be physical. It's great to be strong. It's great to be play with a nasty streak. But if you don't do it under control, you're not helping anybody if you're missing your assignments because you didn't have your eyes correct or your feet correct or your hands correct the way that they were supposed to be on that particular blocking scheme. So I think that's kind of the deal that Foje is also a tech is athletic as he is, Parker. He's a technician. And I think that's what gives him kind of the it balances out his inexperience. Does that make sense
It does.
with everything? So, anyways, um, do we have another super chat that I'm
We have
missing here?
several more.
Okay.
Mongo tosses $10 and asks, Venmo sponsorship pending? Shout out to Justin Ott.
Okay. So shout out to Justin. Oh, yeah, that's his dad. Got you. Yeah. I was like, wait a second. Jaden, no, wait. Yeah. No. If anybody's going to know a player's father's name, Mongo is the man when it
He's
comes
on
to
top
that.
of that. It's kind of become his thing.
Yeah. And what was that? What was the rest of the question, real quick?
That was it. That was
Okay.
it. Venmo joke. Shout out to Justin Ott. That was the only thing.
Gotcha. Venmo joke. Yeah, fair enough. Those will never get old, I think. I don't think at this point.
Uh,
Um, Go
West
ahead.
Coast Sooner asks, did you see Troy Everett's picture on X
We
last week?
discussed it on here. I said
Yes.
football was a game of inches. Troy Everett. Never mind. I'm not going
Cooper Graves tossed us $2 and said, "No question, like the new live stream graphic." Yes,
Awesome.
we've
Appreciate it.
upgraded in the graphics department recently, so
Yep. Cool.
keeping a clean look for those of you. By the way, the scrimmage is ending right now, and so my phone has begun to blow up with feedback. And so that's why my attention has been divided the last couple of minutes, is because people are starting to
Yeah.
hit me up about the scrimmage, and obviously we will have stuff for our members at ouinsider.com.
Yeah, not trying to like keep my head down. Like, but like I keep getting notifications down here. I've got like three messages, so I keep like digging down. Like that's why I asked, like, was there another part of that question? Because my mind was a little bit down here with a yeah, notification on that exact topic. I figured that it would actually last to about 9:15. I'm actually shocked they got out that early, Parker. I'm not gonna lie. So you have to understand, post practices, Venables likes to talk. Post scrimmages, he loves to coach speak and give the raw emotional speech that sometimes can last quite a while. Even after football camps, Parker, we've been privy to those the speeches that he's given. What do they call those after the football camps? Um, where the coaches get up and they give the not words of affirmation, but kind of like words of affirmation.
Words of motivation.
I don't know. I can't remember what they had a specific thing that they call it, but when Brent did it, what was it, year one in 2022, and like we were stuck there for like an hour and a half a couple times, just waiting on to talk to the recruits and the campers afterwards. That was hard. That was hard. And Jackson Arnold made a joke about that during SEC Media Days, by the way. Just the difference between Auburn and Oklahoma is that Venables talks more after practice than they do at Auburn. So, anyways, what with the, I guess, hmm, with the pickup of Jake Krell, do you see that as it's obviously momentum, right? Like, I think that's a rhetorical question, but is it going to be enough momentum if they accompany that with some wins to surprise with a few flips of maybe even guys that we're not talking about right now come fall, December, November?
I think this is maybe the first time, Brandon. This may be the first time in the entirety of the duration of my time covering OU recruiting where it feels like OU is poised to be one of those villains down the stretch, right? The program that's taking as opposed to losing commits. Because I mean, we've seen this. We've seen this happen in recent years, not perennially, but on a semi-regular basis, you see commits start to drop off for Oklahoma down the stretch. Saw it last year with Floyd Bicard, Kamari Moore, et cetera. You rewind to the 2023 class, they lost Anthony Evans, Colton Vasek. Um, and Oklahoma hasn't flipped anybody since Brendan Zurbrugg in August of 2023. With the exception of signing Jet New on signing day, I guess. But outside of that, New, Zurbrugg, Ivan Carrion, over the last three cycles, that's it in the flip department.
Yeah.
Three flips. I'll bet you, I'll wager right now, Oklahoma has at least three flips between now and signing day in December.
Three flips. That's a lot, to be honest. And that would put Oklahoma essentially, if they, let's say they get T. Ron Richardson on the 26th, right? Let's just hypothetically throw that out there. That puts them at 17 commits. So that'd be 20 if they were to flip. Because what, T. Ron's the last true available guy, right? That they're after that isn't committed. Is that correct? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, he's
I
the
feel like
last
that.
uncommitted target on the
Yeah.
board. T. Ron Richardson.
Yeah.
That's it. At that point, it's flip season. Flip
Yeah.
season is on.
I'll say this. I know that they're, and again, I think I've reiterated this like five different times. They are all about flipping and getting high school targets. They are. That's part of their MO moving forward once Oklahoma starts to put some W's on the board this fall. However, if they feel like they're hearing buzz or getting intel behind the scenes or whatever, that a more developed, let's say, sophomore player right now, a player that is probably, he's a good contributor playing well for, let's say, a Big 12 school. And let's just say it's a wide receiver that has like 400 or 500 yards receiving, and they feel like he fits what they want to do offensively. They're probably going to back off the high school guy and go after the 2 year remaining transfer that they feel will be there for 2 years and make plays for them for 2 years that they don't have to waste a lot of development on with the 2026 season. 2027 and beyond with the 27 class, it's development, development, development. But they're looking for that little sweet spot where, and they're at it right now with how young this team is, where they feel like they can go 26 and 27 and be really, really set up to have 24, 23, 24, 25, and essentially the 26 class carry them for the most part into 27, and that way have the 25, 26, 27 classes be what they use in the 28 season and beyond. And I know that feels like an eternity for you all, but it's really not. You got to think about it. It feels like yesterday Jackson Arnold, Peyton Bowen, PJ Adewara just signed with Oklahoma. It feels like yesterday that David Stone and Jaden Jackson signed with Oklahoma. They're sophomores and juniors now, Parker. Like, mind blown. Or redshirt sophomores, right? So that's my point is they're looking at it from a roster standpoint, a development standpoint, a longevity standpoint, where sometimes going after this guy that you're going to have to really put some work in. Maybe he's ranked high, but maybe they see him as a 3-star on their development, but they're going after him because they know they can flip him and they can put him on the roster. But there's somebody else more highly that they have more highly rated that could be going in the transfer portal. They're probably going to hold off on that kid out of high school. And I've got that from multiple people within that little front office area. So, anyways, go ahead.
Our next super chat here. It comes from SBC Bates, who asks, "What's one thing you heard about the offense after today's scrimmage?" There, it's in a super chat, so you have to answer.
That's a well played.
Tory Blaylock,
Yeah.
really good. Tory Blaylock stock continues to tick upward.
Had him in my notes last night, or that I dropped this morning about 3:30 this morning. I dropped a freaking. So what we do on OU Insider, if you all that aren't on OU Insider, it's why it's a really, really good deal to sign up. $1 right now for the first week. It's a great deal. You can get the Athletic on top of that as well. Complimentary for a whole year if you go sign up right now. It's a great deal. College students, you get it for $1 or $1 a month for the first 3 months if you email us from your .edu, to ouinsider@rivals.com. Same with active duty military emails, ouinsider@rivals.com. We'll send you both of you a promo code so you get it $1 a month for the first 3 months. But talked about Tory Blaylock, Parker. He has been an absolute animal. Javonte Barnes has been killing it. So there is. I'm gonna put the quote that I'm gonna tell you all the quote, just kind of a tease of what was said to me just 2 days ago, and I put it in the notes that I put up last night. And these notes are, Parker, would you say they're extensive? Very extensive, right? Like super extensive. Like everything, every position's covered, everything, guys. Like it is in depth. Oklahoma feels like they have the best running back room in college football right now. And if you actually sit back and think about it, Javonte Barnes has been really good at times, right? When he's been healthy, right? Xavier Robinson was really good as a freshman. Taylor Tatum was a 5-star, the #1 running back coming out of high school. Tory Blaylock was a top 250 kid coming out of high school, right? Already shining. Andy Bass is a multifaceted, can play slot, can do everything guy for you. You have a walk-on in Gabe Sawchuk, right? that had P4 offers. And then you have Jaden Ott, who's ran for over 2,000 yards in his career, Parker, all in the running back room. So for somebody to say they feel like it's the best running back room in college football, I don't think that's hyperbole. Do you? I think they have I think there's some validity to it. It may not be true, but Oklahoma has they have a say in it, right? Like they would be able to have a little bit of competition in that battle of who is the most talented running back room in college football.
Blake Wilson gave us $5 and said, "Hey guys, love watching this channel. Sorry for bringing this up." I think is what he meant. I want this John Mateer news to bed, please. Don't we all, Blake? The John Mateer Venmo gate is just such an obnoxious storyline because it's nothing. Like it's genuinely nothing. I I can I assure you, John Mateer wasn't actually gambling on sports, and that you didn't need to hear a public statement from him, see a public statement from him to know that it was an inside joke with his friends, because that's what Venmo payment descriptions are for. Anybody that uses Venmo uses the description feature for jokes. None of us take it seriously. And also, I loved our guy JD Piquel's take on it. He said basically, even if it was true, even if John Mateer did transfer money to three times over Venmo, even if he transferred money to teammates three times over Venmo in 2022 because he was betting on games, why do we care? It's
Yeah.
3 years ago, and it's the virtual equivalent of jaywalking. He said, line it up. Let's play some college football already, instead of talking about a guy's Venmo transactions. And to that, I say yes and amen.
So we missed a super chat, by the way, by Corbin.
Did we? I'm sorry, Corbin.
Yeah.
How, where, what did we? Okay,
I
yes,
got it.
here we
I got
go.
it. I found it. I found it. I found it. I appreciate you, Corbin. I apologize. We are very sorry. How do you think the NCAA investigation goes? I know you talked about it. Is a nothing burger on post practice pod, but the investigation still worries me. Appreciate what you guys do. Well, it's a nothing burger because they have that app, right? They have that system where they can see if Mateer is on any betting app or
Yeah, well,
betting he's done anything like that.
I think the easiest way to just clear this up for you, Corbin, is that OU said in their statement yesterday that they have no reason to expect that there will be an NCAA investigation. So I don't know if there's going to be anything to fret over in the first place there.
Yeah.
OU compliance is very thorough. Very thorough. Trust
Confirmed.
me.
Yeah.
If there is a compliance department in America, and this is not necessarily a bad thing, not inherently at least, but if there is a compliance department in America that will make a mountain out of a molehill, it is the OU compliance department. Gabe Eichard can attest to this. So, if the OU compliance department does not
But
expect that there's going to be an NCAA investigation because they don't think there's anything there for the NCAA to investigate, I'm inclined to believe them.
you and I can attest to that because I mean, I know I've been called before on questioning on just some really random stuff where you're just like, what? No, what? Just like, no, like they'll call like, I guess there was there was like a rumor about a fireworks one time with me, and I was like, what are you talking about? So they had to call me somebody, but they check in on every rumor, every rumor. It doesn't even, it's crazy. Like, in like a good way crazy because it's kept OU out of trouble. Everything that they do keeps OU out of trouble. So as Parker said, like the odds of there being something there is just so minuscule. So minuscule. So like um I don't even know, and I'll just dive into the fireworks thing, I guess, because remember Caleb Williams was going to do fireworks back in the day for his announcement, right? during the July
Okay,
4th.
I don't recall this, no, but I'll take your
Okay,
word
yeah,
for it,
yeah, yeah.
obviously.
So play around here. Play on with me. So my uncle owns one of the bigger fireworks in the whatever in the world. Like he deals with China and all that type of stuff. And I guess Carl's Carl Williams had called my uncle to try and see if they could do like they were going to shoot it over a firework up where it was going to come up and it was going to be the shape of Oklahoma in the background when he announced or something like that. And he was trying to see if he could get it done. So they called me to ask if Caleb was dad's was paying for the fireworks, which they should do that. That was the right thing to do. Um, obviously, because that was a special fireworks. I think they were willing to pay an inordinate amount. Obviously, Caleb comes from money, right? So that was the whole gist of that. It was kind of funny just because they called and asked me like I was the one that was a part of the I don't own the company. I didn't even know what they were talking about. Like I was like, what? So anyways, yeah, that was funny. But yes, but I was an example of how thorough they are that they would call and ask a third party family member about fireworks because they want to make sure that it was on the up and up, which was the right move for them to do. Um, are you worried about the offensive line at all? Like just at all, at all. Like
I I would be lying if I said no. I mean,
okay,
to be frank, we could be hearing that this looks like another Joe Moore award-winning unit coming out of fall camp, which to be clear, we're not. And I
right.
would still have concerns because I don't know how you couldn't be concerned with 2024 in the rearview mirror. Like, you don't know what it's going to look like. And until you know what it looks like on Saturdays, you're going to reserve judgment and you're going to be skeptical. And that's okay. And that's understandable. And that's where I'm at. Do I expect that Oklahoma is going to be better up front? Certainly I do. Certainly I do. But am I going to wait until we actually see tangible data, until we have a few games worth of data about how this offensive line is playing before I would say all of my concerns are settled? Also, yes. So, yeah, I have fewer concerns, certainly, than I did at the beginning of fall camp, even. Like, I think my concerns have ebbed away, especially with the knowledge that there's really good, healthy competition right now for a couple of spots on the offensive line, a couple of starting nods, and the knowledge that while Jacob Sexton and Derek Simmons are on the shelf with concussions, which they're obviously going to recover from and be 100% before long, there are other guys getting reps at tackle, and that will make them better because Oklahoma has some of the best defensive ends in the country that they're going up against on a day-to-day basis. So I'm not terribly worried, but I would be lying if I said I was 0% worried.
Yeah. I don't. I is it is it odd that I'm not really worried about the tackles. I'm not. I feel pretty good about Derek Simmons, Jake Taylor, Jacob Sexton, Michael Fasusi, and Logan Hallen. I just do. But we've heard Heath Ozaida's getting reps with the ones, right? Instead of, and this was obviously on my notes, so I'm going to tell you anyways, but Heath Ozida was getting reps with the ones instead of Eddie Pierre Louis the other day. I don't know if that's Bill Bedenbaugh rotating. I don't know what, but my point is that if you're rotating that much there, either you feel really, really good about your interior offensive line, or you're trying to find some sort of cohesiveness at that one spot. But because Fabechi has not moved, he's the
No,
one
and
guy
he
that has it,
won't. Like
and
if
Troy Everett,
Yeah, as long
obviously.
as Fabechi's healthy, he's going to be your right guard probably all season unless his level of play just falls off a cliff. I think Ryan Foje, just because of sheer physical talent and ceiling, is going to be right there behind Fabechi, waiting for him to slip up. But I don't know how reasonable it is to expect that. What I was told on Ozida is that, and here's kind of my impression of how fall camp has gone. Eddie Pierre-Louis came into fall camp with the leg up for that left guard role. Heath Ozida has responded in a good way. He has responded in a way that you would expect a guy to respond when he was getting starters reps, when he was earning starts at that position last year, and then a guy a year younger than him seemingly leapfrogged him in the spring. And so I'm really encouraged by everything I've heard on Heath Ozida. I'm really encouraged by everything I've heard on Eddie Pierre-Louis, likewise. And so, regardless of which of those two guys is starting week one for Oklahoma at left guard, I feel pretty good about it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, then you should feel pretty good about the offensive line as a whole because I think that's probably for me that's just the biggest question. I think Keith Ozida is going to end up being a really good player this year. Like where there's going to be times that because Beanbo likes to rotate offensive linemen, particularly the inside guys, quite a bit. And we're probably not going to notice it's him because he's playing that well that you're not seeing a drop off between him, right, and Eddie Pierre Louis or Ryan Foje for that matter. So I think, if Foje hits the ground running again, I actually believe the source that told me that the other day that they think he's going to start by the end of the year. I the more I hear about him, the more comfortable you get with the idea of a freshman, kind of like you did with, right, Caden Green back in the day. And it feels a whole lot like the buzz you're hearing is very eerily similar to Caden Green, not just in number, not in size. Like everything about him is Caden Green, it feels like, except for his name's Ryan Foje, and he's from Houston and not obviously Missouri, but you get the point. Like there's a lot of coincidences between the two. A lot.
Here's why. I guess here's part of the reason why I'm still reticent to believe any buzz that Foje or Fasusi, for that matter, is on track to start at some point in 2025. Because I think in order for that to happen, not even I think, I know for that to happen, somebody has to leave the door open. Because that's
Mm-hmm.
what happened for Caden Green in 2023, right? Troy Everett, who was playing guard at the time, had a lackluster first couple of drives against Texas, and Bill said, Caden, get on in there. And the rest is history, right? And so to me, as I look at it, and I look at the picture specifically at right guard, which looks to be, I mean, that's where Foje has taken a lot of reps this fall. That's where you would think, okay, if there's a path to playing time, it's probably there. Fabechi has to either get hurt or he's got to screw up enough that Bedenbo's willing to make that change. And once you make that change, right, there's not really any going back from it. At that point,
Mm-hmm.
you're committed to just rolling with Ryan Foje. Come hell or high water, you're gonna let that guy learn in real time, thrown into the fire.
That
And so I I guess the reason I'm not entirely convinced it's going to happen that way in 2025 is because I haven't seen enough bad from Fabechi to make me believe he's going to be bad enough repeatedly for Bedenbo to break that emergency glass.
yeah. I'm, I think he trusts Fabechi quite a bit, to be honest. I mean, he made that very clear, I thought, when he met with the media the other day. It felt like of the offensive linemen, the way he spoke about Fabechi and Troy Everett was just different, right? And granted, Sexton, Simmons, and Taylor were out. And I think if they would have practiced, he probably would have spoke glowingly about them as well. But and he didn't speak badly about him. Actually, he spoke good about him, but not as high up as he spoke about those two. I think he feels pretty good about right guard and center. I do. I think he feels good about left tackle and right tackle. I think he feels good about the depth. As a matter of fact, I'm straight up going to tell you all this. Was told just last night that this offensive line is so far ahead of where they were last year that the run game, it doesn't matter who is back there versus the best defensive line in college football, they're still gaining yards. Not big chunk yards a lot, but they're gaining yards. And they're actually happy about it. They're like, if this would have been last year versus this defensive line, there would have been zero touchdowns scored in any scrimmage at this point because Arnold, Hawkins, Xavier Robinson, Javante Barnes, Gavin Sawchuk would have been on their back in the backfield at all times. So they're happy. They think that this going up and Beanbo said it, Parker, going up against Venable's defense every day is such a big plus for this offense. You're going to see nothing like it anywhere else. And if you have any sort of pulse, you should be successful against every other defense. And I kind of agree with that. I think that's a fair statement, particularly the defensive line. Because once again, Parker, David Stone keeps being talked about in ways that in the spring, we weren't sure he was ever going to get talked about like that at Oklahoma. You remember that? Like people were worried about where his head was at. And now, Stone, I'm going to phrase it like it was phrased to me last night. Dog. He has played like a dog all fall camp. He's on a mission. And who he is, straight up, the person told me, said, who he is now, just like we weren't sure he was going to turn into this person, people within the Switzer Center were kind of worried that he was never going to have that focus. And now look at him. This dude is focused. He is who he's this, and I say this all the time. He's the kid that I met when he was a 7th grader to the time he left IMG. People at IMG talked about his drive, his work ethic, everything. That is who this kid is now, again. And we all know what he turned into prior at IMG. He was the best defensive tackle in high school football. Like I readily think that that's where he's headed by the time he leaves. This is a very similar trajectory to Gerald McCoy. Do people remember Gerald McCoy? The first few years at Oklahoma, people weren't sure if he was going to turn into what he is now or what he turned into. And then his redshirt sophomore year and his redshirt junior year, yowzers. If it wasn't from Ndamukong Suh, he would have won every defensive line and line award there was. But Ndamukong Suh existed, Parker.
Freddie Downing tossed us $5 in the super chat and said, no question, just want to thank you guys for always being on top of everything. Mateer for Heisman. Thank you.
Appreciate
Freddie.
you.
Thank you for supporting us.
Yep.
Thanks to all of you who are tuned in right now live. Somebody in the chat was talking about Sooner Cowboys. So we'll see. I heard Phil Steele say today that Texas will have the best defense. And it was interesting just to track everything that was coming out of Texas camp over the weekend because they held a scrimmage on Saturday. And everybody in the aftermath was kind of acknowledging Arch didn't necessarily look the way you hoped he would have looked. And you can always see two sides of the same coin, right? If the defense has a good day or the offense has a good day, as was the case for Oklahoma tonight, then okay, the defense or the Texas defense is really good, or the Oklahoma offense is really good. The flip side of that, the obverse of that is, ooh, Texas offense is not great, or Ooh, maybe that Oklahoma defense is more vulnerable than we thought. But man, and I don't know. I don't know what it's going to look like this fall. And that's why I stray away from offering any hot takes before football season begins. But I guess I'm going to put on my Jeff Ketchum hat here for a second and talk about the enemy for a brief moment. Uh, doesn't it feel like it, if indeed the Texas defense is handling the Texas offense on the practice field, getting the better of them on a regular basis. And that's my impression. Maybe it's accurate, maybe it's not. I don't keep up every single day with what's coming out of Texas camp. But it isn't that a little bit concerning if the defense is getting the better of the Texas offense every single day?
Well, we're gonna this sounds like Oklahoma last year.
And
Remember?
that was
Is
something
that
somebody brought up to me today. Like that doesn't
yeah,
that spin zone, if you will, kind of sound like what
yeah,
we all were trying to convince ourselves of last year about that
for
Oklahoma
sure.
football team?
Well, the defense is just amazing. The defense is just amazing. That's why the defense is so good. When reality, what was a phrase we used last year? I want to use it correctly. Man, either this defense is really, really good or the offense is really, really bad. We think the defense is really, really good, and that's probably why this is happening. And that's what you're hearing from Texas. Exactly what we were saying last year. We're trying to convince ourselves of last year. And sources were trying to convince us that last year, like, oh, it's just that defense is just unbelievable. We haven't seen a defense like this in Norman in a long time, which was true. Like all of
Oh
that
yeah.
was true.
And by the way, a couple super chats from Corbin. He said, "Bro, y'all
Yeah.
gonna skip my joke?" Also, come on, man. He did make a previous joke with a $2 super chat. He
Yeah,
said,
his
"I was gonna
Venmo
make you
joke.
guys Venmo me back if you'd skipped me."
Fair enough.
Well, I would have labeled the Venmo sports gambling, Corbin. I would have. Topical.
USC
Topical
versus
joke.
UCLA.
Um, I did. I just literally just got a text via someone who was at the Texas scrimmage over the weekend. The feedback is the Texas offensive line does not look very good. Now, we watched one of the worst offensive lines I've ever seen last year at the P4 level at Oklahoma. So I
So
struggle
bad
to
people
believe
won't talk
it's going to
about
be
it.
that bad. That's I hear oh so and so is having offensive line problems, and I don't know if anything really seems to me like true offensive line problems after witnessing what we witnessed in 2024 for Bill Bedenbaugh's injury ravaged unit. But you got an inexperienced quarterback, a guy that hasn't started in a full time capacity at the collegiate level behind a shaky offensive line. That's that's not a recipe that inspires a ton of confidence. Like it ought to be acknowledged, there's a lot of talent on that roster, especially on the defensive side of the ball, right? But
Mm-hmm.
if your Achilles heel is inexperienced quarterback behind a shaky offensive line, that's a pretty significant Achilles heel.
Right. Yeah. I mean, y- the offensive line is the heart and soul of the offense. Sure, you have to have a good quarterback to be successful in any level of football today, even down to like little league, like because it's just how the game's played. But y- I just look back at like I wanna like put a pin in this because I want to see where this goes over the next few weeks with Texas and when they play Ohio State week one because they don't get to start off with a cupcake and let the offensive line gain some confidence, Parker. No, 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 no. They get to go up. They go up. They get to go up against Larry Johnson's defensive front, who is always filled with NFL talent. Always. That's scary. Could that ruin Texas's whole season? Like, could you see that ruining their season? Like, if they go up there and they lose by, let's say, 14, 17 points. Could you see it go off the rails?
No, no.
No?
Okay. Could I see it go off like, yes, in theory, you could team, but I don't know that it's going to go off the rails for anybody after week one.
Yeah.
Because I feel like in general, week one games are a very poor representation of what a team actually is and where they're going to be by the end of the season. A great example of this phenomenon, Brandon, would be the week one result last year between USC and LSU. Remember when USC beat LSU in week one? And the narrative nationally was, oh boy, Brian Kelly might be cooked. And also, oh boy, Lincoln Riley might finally have a CFP contender at USC, even sans Caleb Williams. And then how dumb did those takes look by the end of the season? Because
Awful.
by the end of the season, LSU would have beaten USC by 30. So teams are still
Yeah.
figuring stuff out week one. They're still a long way from where they're going to be by the time everything kind of rounds into final form in late October, early November, or thereabouts. And so, regardless of what happens between Texas and Ohio State in week one, I'm still going to operate under the assumption that both of them will be heavily in the mix for a college football playoff berth at the end of the
Oh,
season. Just because
of
I like,
course. Yeah.
yeah, I don't think things are going to spin out of control for either one of those teams, depending on what the outcome in week one is. And there's
So,
obviously amongst the pollsters going to be a lot of grace extended,
for
as there
sure.
should be, to
Yeah.
the program that loses that game.
So when I say off the rails, because Texas is like just your preseason number one, bro. Like off the rails could be two, three losses. And that's what I'm talking like. But even if two losses, I think Texas gets in the playoffs, right? Just because of where they started out. They would have to fall a substantial amount. And because of where they started out in the preseason polls, and this is the thing about preseason polls. Everybody wants to sit there and say they don't matter. Bull crap. Like they don't matter to the extent that they don't mean anything in essence to the final rankings. However, we're all human. And if, for example, Oklahoma's ranked 18th in the AP poll, they're 26th in the coaches poll. If they were 35th or 47th or whatever, and they go 9-3, even with their schedule, they're not going to even be talked about for the college football playoffs. But because they started out at 26 and 18, they'll be talked about for the college football playoffs with a 9-3 record with that schedule. And it's because of where they started. So does the preseason polls matter? No, it's banter. But it does put a little nugget in your mind of where you think these teams really are, right? And that's where your preconceived notions, even with the rankings guys, the playoff rankings committee, right? They have preconceived notions off the AP poll and the coaches poll throughout the whole year. Whether right or wrong, it's a fact. So of course, Texas starting off one. So when I say off the rails, like two loss, three loss, I think would be off the rails for a team that everybody expects to be playing for a national title and winning the SEC. So
Okay, but
because
like two,
you
two
have
or three
three losses,
losses.
I don't, and they're not
Yeah.
playing for the SEC title. I think that's off the rails for what their expectations were.
Well, no, because you're still in the college football playoff at that point.
Well, I don't think three losses would put them in the. I think two, but not three. They don't have the schedule for it.
Well, they're also Texas.
No, that's fair. Just like Notre Dame. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see. But fair enough. Do we have another super chat? Am I missing one here?
No, I think we're all caught up.
Sweet. Um, if you were going to put, I think this is a great question. And we talked about surprise players before fall camp. We talked about who the surprise players we think are going to be. And you and I named one on offense, one on defense heading into fall camp. 2 weeks in, would you consider Javonte Barnes a surprise, even with his history of being a starting running back at Oklahoma? Just because of Xavier Robinson and Jay Knott?
No. Um,
Okay.
Surprise would not be the word I would use because I mean, I like in my mind, I think a lot of people's perceptions of Javante Barnes have been tainted by 2023 and 2024 when he was not healthy,
No,
not fully
yeah, that's
healthy
true.
at least.
Yeah.
Like to me, in my mind, the Javante Barnes that I fondly recall is the true freshman version of Javante Barnes that was what, 15 pounds lighter than he is right now, 3 years younger. And he was the primary handcuff to Eric Gray, the guy that rushed for 100 plus yards and 2 touchdowns in his fifth career collegiate game, the guy that showed up and made an immediate impact when Gavin Sawchuk, a guy who you could argue was and is equally talented slash maybe even has a higher ceiling, like he wasn't ready right from the jump. He showed up in the Cheez-It Bowl against Florida State, but Javante Barnes, man, from the minute he got to Oklahoma, he was right there in the mix for carries.
Yeah.
Leapfrogged Marcus Major early in the season. Never gave up that RB2 stranglehold. And so when I hear, oh, Javante Barnes is performing well, Javante Barnes is really making his presence felt in that backfield committee, all I hear is, oh, Javante Barnes is healthy again. Because when Javante Barnes is healthy, that's who he is. He's dynamic and he's a tough runner. And does he have his weaknesses in terms of his game? Yeah, like he's not 99 overall or he's not 99 everything, you know? But I think the version of Javante Barnes that I saw in 2022 leads me to believe that the version of Javante Barnes in 2025 that we're going to see, provided it is a 100% healthy Javante Barnes,
Hmm.
is going to be quite the compliment to Jaden Knott in that Oklahoma backfield. I love Javante Barnes. This is well documented that back in the 2022 recruiting cycle, I thought he was the best back out there. And it's unfortunate that he's had a ho hum couple of years that have been marred by injuries. And ultimately, whenever the book is closed on his career at Oklahoma, it's not going to look fantastic statistically.
Yeah.
But I think he's absolutely somebody that, with the type of 2025 season that I believe he's capable of turning in, can wind up an NFL draft pick next spring.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. For me, I just don't I think he's going to play quite a bit. I just don't know that I don't know that he gets more carries than Xavier Robinson. I just don't. Like I want to believe it. I do. But everything I've heard about Xavier Robinson, the second he came back, like everybody said he came back and he was awesome. Like exactly what was expected of him and who he is. He's so smooth, so big, so just for a guy his size. You know the comparison everybody gives me of him when I talk to people? And this is probably aging the people I talk to and aging myself. Lindell White when it comes to Xavier Robinson.
Ooh, I like that.
I do too. I think it's a great comparison. They're both very, very fleet of foot, just sneaky fast when they get out in the open, sneaky fast, and just smooth runners. And they're patient too. So I think there's a really good fit there. There's a really good balance. That's where I think Xavier Robinson and Jaden Knott, as far as like a yin and a yang type deal and the balancing out that they do for each other, I think they are perfect because they are so different as runners. So different. Because he's a space guy. He's fast, right? He's gonna catch the ball, the backfield, all that type of stuff, which Xavier does, but just differently. A lot different. A lot he does with a lot more power. And I think that's the difference. I think that's gonna do it, Parker, for this version of the OU Insider under the visor YouTube live. Hey, real quick, again, we've dropped so many notes like Parker's got scrimmage notes coming up. I'll have scrimmage notes coming up tomorrow. I have a bunch of practice notes. Like if you think we talk about practice stuff on here, it is so small in comparison to what we put on there. Recruiting notes, flip targets that we're talking about on OU Insider. Our man Steve Wolfong's been on there. Stan Spiegelman. Um, Obviously, Damian Mackey goes on there. Um, Trying to think who else. Barry, our guy Barry, from both of them from the Barry and Mac. But obviously, they have a bunch of sources. They're on there all the time talking about stuff. As far as the program goes, Parker and I are dropping notes every single day for you guys. Jesse's dropping a bunch of really good stuff. Our board is busy, busy, busy. We are about to break a record as far as traffic goes in an August in OU Insider history. And I'm not saying that we're going to crush it, and that's all thanks to you all. I want to thank you guys for it. It's been an amazing deal this month, and we don't do any of this without you guys. So I say that to also say that this live comes because obviously Riverwind and our sponsors, but also because OU Insider exists, and it exists because of you all, and you all sign up. So $1 for the first week. Right now, if you go to OU Insider, or you go to our YouTube, or go to our Facebook, or go to our YouTube, excuse me, go to our Twitter, our Facebook, our Instagram, there's links on our stories, on our pages, all that type of stuff where you can go click on it. You can get The Athletic complimentary for a whole year if you sign up, and you get OU Insider for the first week for $1. It's an amazing deal. Really kind of a 2-for-1 deal, if you will. But we've had a bunch of y'all sign up, and we thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Again, we're so blessed. Go to ouinsider.com. Go to the top right corner. Boom. Click join. It'll send you to a little thing. You get to join OU Insider through that link as well. College students, active duty military, email us ouinsider@rivals.com. We will send you a promo code for $1 for the first 3 months. So $3 will get you 3 months of OU Insider right now. We want to help you guys out. ouinsider@rivals.com. All you got to do is email us from your .edu or your active duty military. The only way, because we got to prove that you're in college or active duty, or anybody could do it, but we will sign you up, send you a promo code for you to be able to sign up and a link. $1 a month for the first 3 months. ouinsider@rivals.com from your .edu or active duty military. All right. For Parker Thune, for Spencer Forsythe, my name's Brandon Drum. That's going to do it for this version of the OU Insider and the Visor YouTube Live powered by Riverwind Casino. You all have a blessed day.